Alrighty, guys, I am super pumped for this interview with Mr. Vibes Nelson from Vibes Creative. Dude, it has been a journey this last 12 months in coaching, and yeah, I wanted to jump on here and just kind of hear a bit of your journey to share with people who are thinking about working with us, because I know a lot of people when they're making a decision to do coaching or invest in a program, there's a lot of coaches out there, there's a lot of mentors, and I know you went through that journey as well when you first decided to work with us. So, dude, like love for you to introduce who you are, and then I want to ask you a couple of questions about your experience working with us.
Yeah, stoked to be here, man. And my name is Nelson. I'm the founder and CEO of Vibes Creative, the number one podcast agency right
Love it.
now in Australia and soon worldwide. And to be honest with you, when I first came across your content, that must have been like maybe a year and a half ago or something, a long time. And I came across your content. I gave you a follow. It was very value driven. That's what I liked about it.
Mm.
And I saw that, oh, okay, he has like this business coaching program thing and whatnot. Back then I was struggling with the main thing that most videographers and video production businesses do in the early stages is that I had zero consistency when it came to acquiring leads and
Mm.
in not a proper lead generation system as well. Everything was reliant on referrals and word of mouth. So that was kind of what I was going through back then. And I saw your stuff, but I never really booked a call. To me, most of it like just like anyone else in the market, I was like, oh, this is all scammers or
Just,
whatever,
just
that.
another business coach out there.
Yeah, it's just another one and whatnot. And one of my good friends, Andrew, was a client of yours, and we had a podcast together and whatnot, and he was telling me like, oh, we're making back then I think he was making somewhere between 20 and 30K consistently or something. And I was like, how are you doing that? And then he, because for me, I have experienced those numbers before,
Mm.
but it was like a one-off thing, one-off project that came out of nowhere, and happened, but then you would have zero next month was completely dry, so it's like, yeah, you can make a 20 or 30K in one project, but if you have then 3 months that you make zero, well, it's less than 10K per month. So yeah, he told me how well he was doing with you, and I could tell that as well. He had some new knowledge when it came to marketing and sales and all these things. And I'm like, oh, okay, I can see that. And then I went to check I booked. I was like, okay, let me just book a call, and I booked a call, and it just seemed like you had exactly the information and the systems that I needed at that point in time.
Mm.
It was a very scary decision. I
Yeah, I
remember
remember
just
we're on my Instagram. I think it was on the Zoom had finished, but the Instagram we're trying to do an Instagram call, and I had that notification blocker on Instagram where I kept like canceling the call every 2 seconds as you're trying to ask some questions. I was like, oh my God, he's probably thinking, one of those business coaches who's like, a scam or something like that. I'm like, because there's so many on there. And I think that's one of the
yeah,
main concerns you had when you're coming in, obviously to have a conversation, but obviously seeing Andrew and other people in your market, you're like, yeah, they must, if they're getting results, this guy must be legit. But yeah, I remember that first call we had was it was a big decision. Like, man, like, is this gonna work? And like, yeah, it's gonna work. Obviously, you got to put the work into it.
mm,
But if you're willing to put the work in it, let's get
mm,
to work. And I think, yeah, that was a cool experience for me, just hearing like your feel, which I think a lot of people, especially when they're thinking about getting a coach, like I've spent a lot of money
mm,
on coaching and events, mastermind stuff over the years, like over 200K on coaching. It's freaking
mm,
scary,
mm.
especially if it's your first time.
Yeah.
But I'd love to like kind of hone in on just before you decide to book on a call, because obviously seen Andrew having success, but what what was the typical day like for your business then? Like how big was your team? What was the revenue you were doing when like this is before you started working with, because you already
Mhm,
were successful, like the
mhm,
creation side, and that's obviously we don't teach you how to make better videos. You're
mhm.
already a gun at that, but like what was life before that like?
Yeah, so but before that, it was pretty much myself, and
Mm.
maybe 5 months before I got in touch with you, 5 to 6 months before, I had someone that was working with it, which to this day is my main guy. Alex, he's our head of content and pretty much the person that is replacing everything when it comes to me in the business. And he was working with me, but it was very on and off. It was heavily dependent on how much work I actually was getting. I was
Mm,
trying to get him to do, some internal content type of thing as well, or just helping me with BTS on shoots and that type of stuff. But it was heavily reliant on the amount of work that I had. So he was coming maybe 2, 3 times per week. If I was really busy, he might come more than that. And that in itself was a very scary decision as well, because of me not having that much consistency, I couldn't
mm,
pay him as much. I couldn't guarantee. It was too scary to even think of that. So then, and the thing that triggered this is one very interesting thing, is that the thing that actually triggered me to book the call wasn't Andrew in itself. Andrew kind of, that planted the seed for me of being like, okay, sounds like this guy is in fact legit. But I didn't book a call straight away. What happened was that I got injured training
mm,
MMA.
mm,
So I got my knee, and I don't know if you remember this, but my knee and ankle got injured, and that put me back to bed. And I'm like, holy fuck, I can't shoot. How do I make money now if I can't shoot? And
mm,
like how do I do this thing? Oh, I could get Alex, but Alex still needed training back then. He was very, very early stages. And it was that really this moment of realization that if I keep going down this path, I'm gonna be in a dangerous position in which if something happens to me, or I have another injury, or I don't know, something that prevents me from working, I won't be able to have an income. I won't be able to keep progressing or anything. So I needed to find a way to really build this thing to a place where it doesn't rely solely on me performing the tasks, because
mm.
that's not a business. That's being a solopreneur.
Yeah, I remember.
So yeah, that was the thing. That injury was what prompted me to actually book the call.
Yeah, I remember that first week you just injured. I think you just injured yourself, and like one of the main concerns is like, how do I get leads? Like I've got good quality work that I've done in the past. It's like, how do I get leads? How do I get clients in a predictable way?
Mm,
Which yeah, like I think a lot of people can relate when they watch this is in those early days when you're below $10,000 per month or you don't have a
mm,
consistent lead flow, like you know,
mm,
you make a decision on keeping your team member on, not because you don't like them, but mainly because of the
mm.
cash flow or the amount of work you have, and you don't have enough work. You let go of this good team member, this
Yeah,
freelancer or the contract you have because you can't keep them because you don't have cash flow coming in. And I
yeah,
remember you saying that as well as like, obviously your team member's still with you today, and I've met him in person.
mm,
He's a legend, and he's part of the
yeah,
team. And that, if you
yeah,
hadn't figured out like the lead generation or getting clients consistently, you may be either still in the same spot or maybe had to let go of a team. But I know
yeah,
that's for a lot of guys I chat to, especially in the year 2, year 3 of their production business when they start to get some team members on board, don't
mm,
have consistent lead flow. It's really
yeah.
hard to keep them on.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the main thing that I needed to figure out. I was already at an elite level when it came to making videos. I knew everything back and forth. I had the gear, I had all this stuff, but I needed a proper lead generation system, and
Mm,
I actually needed to learn properly sales, because another confronting fact was realizing that every single person I have ever sold to was already a very warm lead because they came from word of mouth. And trying
mm,
to sell someone that doesn't like you, doesn't know you, and that doesn't trust you is a completely different game.
yeah,
So those two skills alone was exactly what I needed.
yeah. So obviously, we're about a year. I think it's almost a year. Is it like this week like?
In May will be a year.
Okay, so
Yes.
not even a
So
year. Tell
yeah.
us a little bit. Actually, tell us one of the most memorable results that you've got. Obviously, I know there's some cool stuff that's happening right now as we're filming this video. That's freaking
Mm.
awesome. But tell me a little,
Mhm.
like, what was the first moment where you're like, shit, this actually works? Like, this is when I have belief. When was that moment, and what was that for you?
It was around month 6, I believe, where we had a 60K month. And that really opened my eyes to holy shit, yeah. We This thing is gonna take off. Like this thing that I've been envisioning for so many years is about to become real. Because up to that point, I haven't even been close to that.
Mm.
before that month. That was like October of 2023 or something. And that moment really felt like game changing in itself. And then selling the first person as well that came through an ad, that felt like a big moment too, because it really feels like you went out and you hunt, for someone, and you bring the thing to the team like, hey, got a new client.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it, but it really feels very extremely powerful when you're selling someone that has never met you in person and they're buying this really high ticket thing, 5K thing. It's it. It's
Mm.
extremely powerful. Another one that always comes to mind is the first time ever that I collected payment on a call. And I remember
Mm.
asking you like, so how do you do that? And you're like, oh, you ask Visa or MasterCard. And I'm like, really? Isn't that even a silly question? Because, whatever, who cares if it's
Yeah.
Visa, MasterCard? But it's not really about this the question in itself. It's about the psychology behind it, and just to get people like, oh, okay, we're doing this thing now. you know
Mm.
so yeah, like the first time I collected payment, that felt like one of the biggest moments I've ever had in business. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously you've had some massive wins, the 60K month, which is one of those big aha moments. Your first sale, obviously from an ad from someone who you've never met before online and
Mm,
obviously taking
mm.
payment over the phone. Um, they're the cool things, and these are the things where people get excited about. But I'd love to hear what some of the struggles you've had along the way. I know like this hasn't been freaking easy. It hasn't just been press button. This is something that I like to teach in
Mm.
coaching. Is like, yeah, we're going to get some cool results, but there's definitely some journey and some struggles going to happen. What were some of like the struggles throughout the journey that kind of made you? I don't want to say made you feel like it wasn't going to work, but what are some sort of struggles you had along the way that kind of hit you back? Because I know there's been a couple.
Oh, that's been way too many of them. And I want to make this very clear to anyone watching this and thinking of signing up and just thinking that it's just going to work, it's going to be easy. It will work as long as you put in the work. That's the key, because to be honest, yes, like we're reaping the rewards almost a year later, and everything is just going even way crazier than what it was 3 months ago, 6 months ago. Like at the rate that we're currently getting results and growing, it's insane. Like we're in the last 90 days we've been able to accomplish things that I couldn't in 7 years.
Mm,
So but it has all happened because I was willing to really take charge of the work that needed to be done. You gave me the information. You have been there to coach whenever that I needed a different perspective, and just to help me see as well things earlier in the journey that I just didn't know about. Hiring, growing a team, SOPs, that type of thing.
mm,
I just didn't understand those things at a high level, especially when it comes to the SOPs side of things and making sure that we can grow an entire operation here, right? That goes beyond myself. But it has been some nights where you're questioning everything. I remember as well when the thought of niching down a year ago was so scary. And I remember when you and I jumped in on our first call, I already knew like it had to be something around podcasting, business coaches, just because I could see that that was what's coming to my awareness.
yeah.
But just making the decision of, okay, this is the one thing that we're going to do was extremely scary.
Yeah.
And it felt like what's gonna happen if we are only doing this thing? Like how many people actually want to do a podcast, all this stuff.
All the
So
stresses, all the anxiety. And I know a lot of
yeah.
people who are watching this can probably relate. So I got this message in my inbox all the time, like, "Oh, what's the secret to like getting clients and like making ads convert?" And they're like, "Is it the tactic? Is it the strategy? Like that Facebook stuff?" I'm like, "No, you've got to get clear on who it is you want to work with, what your offer is,
Mm,
and you dial that in. You spend more time with that, and you can dial in your niche, which is what you've done, like with
mm,
podcasting and doing it for the market that you do it for. It's the reason why you're successful. And this is where a lot of the
mm.
guys that we coach, like when that clicks, suddenly their business goes like this, which
Yeah.
is scary at the start because people go like, I'm a creative. I want to like flow and create for everyone. You can still
Yeah.
do that. It's not that you can't do that, but maybe do that in your creative time and pick a market that you can work with that you can dominate. Because like, yeah,
Yeah.
I know that's been the key for your success is like, I remember the first call we had, I was like, dude, podcasting,
Mm,
that's your offer. That's what we're going with. That's
yeah.
like, you already started that. And some guys that a lot of people that come to us already have that kind of thing figured out. They just kind of need to be put in the right direction.
Mm,
Maybe it's real estate. Maybe you've been doing that for the last couple of years. Maybe it's not the
mm,
market you want to be in. Maybe you want to be in something else, but like, you've got to pick one.
yeah.
I think that's been your key, man, just seeing
Yeah,
that. So,
absolutely. Like once we made that decision and we stuck to it,
mm,
even though in the days where I was questioning everything, there was days that I woke up, I'm like, because then also you start comparing, with
yep.
other video productions or competitors, and you're like, oh, but it seems like that's easier. The grass is always greener on the other side. So you're like, oh, what we do is too complicated and we're doing way more than people do and all these things. But I just stuck with it. I just stuck with it. And now finally, almost a year later, it's like, oh, okay, that was the right call
Yeah.
to make.
So it's definitely been a massive journey. Obviously, there's definitely some lessons and stuff you'll learn along the way. Let's talk about some numbers. I'd love to, because everyone likes to hear the numbers. What like obviously you're where you started from, you obviously didn't have consistency, but give us a bit of a highlight of where you are now in terms of like monthly revenue, and also give us a bit of a highlight how much you have invested into like say paid advertisement, because a really good indication, obviously, like a return on
Mm.
investment is like I put X amount in. Some people go, I want to put $10 in, I want to get you know 30, 40, 50, $60,000 out with that one $10 lead, right? Tell us a little bit about where you are in terms of your revenue on a monthly basis, but also what have you actually invested into paid ads? That's something that I'd like to learn a little bit about.
That is a really good question. Let me
He's
just
opening his
bring my
Facebook ad
ads
account right
manager.
now.
Yeah, just
Go
so
maximum.
we actually um give accurate data. But this is another thing that it took me a little bit to understand and come to peace with it, is
Mm,
that you will have to invest a lot of money in paid advertisement to make a lot of money.
mm,
I remember the first time when we started all the paid advertisement, like spending $50 a day sounded like a crazy amount. And then eventually we took that to $100 per day. And I'm like, holy shit, no, this is too crazy, man. This is so much money. Why are we doing this? No, no. And you have all these thoughts of like, no, just cut it. You don't need to do this thing or whatever. This is too much money. And right now, I just checked in the last we started probably I think May, April, June. So maybe June 2023 has been $30,000 we have spent it in
yeah,
ads. And we're currently sitting at 64 per month, 64K.
64K. Yeah, which
Yeah.
64 times 12 equals $768,000 a year business at this current standing point. And
Yeah.
obviously, you've grown up to that, and you don't go spend the 30K at the start. That's over a year.
Yeah.
But that's a pretty good return on investment if you
Oh,
think about
insane. Insane.
that.
Yeah. And also that's the other thing. Like if you do things correctly, if you have a great service, a great product, you fulfill your promises to your clients, you have a great customer journey. All these deals are every time we lock in one client is technically it's meant to stay with us for 12 months.
Mm,
So as long as we do our job and we deliver on everything, it's a 12-month partnership at a minimum.
mm,
So we can basically spend a lot of money to acquire one customer.
Which means you're kind of in a category of one sometimes because there's a lot of other people out there are scared of doing that. They're scared of
Mm,
investing in themselves, which is why a lot of people come to us. They're looking to learn the secret of how they can run
mm,
paid ads. The secret
mm,
is, you've got to put the work in, but also
mm.
if you invest in, the longer you continue with paid advertisement, you become like a celebrity in your local area where like I think we were chatting just the other day how you had people who've been watching your content on social media, seeing your ads for quite a while, and then they made a decision like this week or last week or whenever it was to go, you know what, we're going to invest in you. And this is where like a lot of people expect ads to work from day one. But sometimes like you'll see in the next 2 years, we'll have this conversation 2 years from now. You're like, dude, we're doing like 1.2 to half $1.5 million a year. And there'll be clients who came from ads that you ran this year,
Yeah,
which is
absolutely. That's the other thing, the long-term game, right? The
mm,
longer you do your one thing, the easier it becomes. That's another thing that I've come to realize, that the longer we become and keep building this #1 podcast agency, the easier it gets for us to get more clients as well. Because
Mm.
we have people these days booking calls and say like, "Oh, guys, I've been watching all your stuff for so long. I've been watching every piece of content," and they've been sitting on the sidelines, and who knows, they might turn into a client next month or next week, or maybe it's another year. But as long as we don't stop doing our thing, they will become a client at some stage.
Mm. Yep. That's how advertising works.
Yeah.
So, couple last questions, Ben. I just want to yeah, kind of capture the journey because obviously you've had some massive growth in the last 12 months, and
Mm.
it's not a typical result. I think your work ethic behind this is what's contributed to a lot of the success that you guys have had. But what would you say your typical day is like right now, right? And particularly what's happened this week. Give us a bit of a highlight. What life is like now for you.
Yeah, and that's another probably another touch point to make. Honestly, it's not that hard. I've realized being there now, like it's not that hard to build a 10K per month business. It's actually quite easy. That's one or two clients if you have the right offer, maybe three. If you want to get to 20s and 30s, it requires you're gonna have to probably start thinking of team members and some systems, and it's gonna be a little bit more stressful. If you want to get past that, it's a whole different ball game, and it's 4 times more stressful. So it's not for everyone. That's the other thing. Like, know what you want. You don't
Mm,
have to go and make $1 million business because you see that is the cool thing to do, whatever. Because realistically, I I I have probably one of the most resilient, iron made minds out there. And even some days I've woken up, look at the ceiling, I'm like, what the fuck why am I doing this? This is so stressful. You have all these people, counting on you to perform, to make sure that everything happens, because otherwise you can't afford all this team and all this new space and all these things. It's very stressful. It's not for everyone. So know what you want, first of all, because it is extremely hard. And also, I'm so in love with this.
mm,
I don't care how hard it gets. I'm just so in love with building the best possible business that I can, and
mm,
a few other goals that I have along the way. But as long as you show up every day, things will come to fruition. It might take a little bit, it always takes a little bit longer than what you expect, but it always happens.
yeah.
And a typical day, going back to your question, is I still wake up at 5 a.m. I do my workout. I go for a little walk usually, and then I start working at 8. Now we're literally talking. This is why I don't have a setup, is because we just moved into our new Vibes Creative HQ. It's a
The
dream
studio
place,
space.
new studio space, something that it felt like a very far away thing a few months ago. And a year ago you would have asked me, when are you having a studio? I'm like, oh, maybe 3 years or something. So and I never, you kind of start not justifying things like, oh, we don't need it and we don't need them, whatever. But then
Yeah.
you realize that also is because it's too difficult right now to do that financially and all these things. Right
Yeah.
now, it's not a problem. Yeah, we can have a studio, whatever. We actually chose the most expensive option that we had allowed, just because I now value too much my time, because
Yeah.
my time is getting taken away by everything and everyone. So so yeah, like, and now we're coming pretty much here, work every day, from Monday to Friday. That's another, if you ask me, some of the things that I've gained as well from having a business coach was really putting boundaries to a lot of things that before a year ago it was not existent. So I don't
Mm,
work anymore Saturdays and Sundays, for example. And that might sound silly, but before there was no boundaries. Yeah, I will get back to clients on Saturday and Sunday. If they call me, I will pick up and answer work related stuff. I will be working on a client deliverable over the weekend, all these things. That doesn't happen anymore. Unless there is an emergency and we really have to, this doesn't really happen. We work between 8 and 5. I used to work almost every hour of the day. So, and the goal is to really get me by the end of the year to just be, 4 hours per day or whatnot. Um, so yeah, it just made me realize that you need boundaries
Mm.
and
It's
it
super
becomes a
important.
lot
Hey.
more fun. Yeah, it
Yeah.
becomes a lot more fun too.
So your business is just to give a summary, I got one question I want to follow up with. Um, so you've gone from doing, the inconsistent ones around about, was it 8 to 10K you were doing like inconsistently at the start?
Yeah, when I first came to you around it was under 10 for sure.
Yeah. And then had a team member that you were kind of keeping on that you wanted to keep giving more hours, but depend on the workflow. Big issue you had was lead generation. And then a year later
Mm,
from now, we're talking about 60K months, studio space, team of 12, unless you've added a new team over in the last week.
mm,
You've just moved in the new studio space, which is obviously a big investment, but that's the growth of your business that you've got too. And on trajectory to do, to get to that 7-figure run rate within the next couple of months, within 12 months.
mm.
It's insane. Now, it's
Yeah.
not a typical result for everyone, but that is a combination of a few things. Obviously, Nelson's put in the work, their team. Key things I see is the niche, the offer, and obviously having a lead generation system. Like if you're able to, you can scale with paid ads. Like you can scale with like referrals, but you spend a lot of time asking people and
Mm,
reaching out and hoping they come back. With ads, you have people to rock up on your doorstep going, hey, I need the thing you put in the marketing. I need that.
mm.
It's been a really cool journey, dude. I got one question. I want to ask this question for you, and if you want to follow up with another answer to it, you can. But I'd love to know what would you say to someone who's thinking of working with us, who's on this page or wherever they're watching this video, and they've watched a bunch of testimonials and they're thinking of working with us. What would you say to someone who's sitting on the fence?
I know it's scary. I've been there. I know you might just have enough money to do it. You might not even have all the money to do it. You might be on a payment plan if you even go ahead and whatnot. You might think that it's a scam as well. I've been there too, thinking that nah, this thing is just another scammer or whatever. I can tell you right now, it has been one of the single best decisions I've ever done for the business. It fully helped me fast track everything that I'm building right now. I've always known from many years now that I am a millionaire, that I will be a millionaire, that I've all know all these things, but I had no idea how to get there. I had no, I needed the technicality. For me, it wasn't I know for some people it's different. Some of you might need mindset. Some of you might need support. Some of you actually need someone that babies you and is behind you, telling you,
Kick
go
in the
do the
ass.
thing. Some of you need that. For me, I needed the technicality. I needed
Mm,
someone to tell me, dude, this is exactly how you do it. This is why you do it. This is, let's get it done. And I will go and I will put in the work. I will get it done. So find out exactly what you need. But if you're being on the fence, if you don't know if this thing is real, it is real. It is real. I'm the living proof of it. And how well will it work for you? Well, if you're a hardworking person, and you're gonna have to have a little bit of patience as well. It's not a magic pill. The system works as long as you put in the work. And it's not gonna be like, if you're thinking as well, if you're joining this program and thinking like, how can I make my money back in the first 30 days? Or how can I make sure I build $1 million business in the first 90 days? Man, don't do it. Don't do it, because it's
mm,
gonna take longer than what you think, and you're gonna give up. Even if you're gonna give up, why even start? So
mm,
if you, as long as you're prepared to listen and to take action on the things that the program tells you to do, and you follow up on your leads, and you actually go and watch your sales back and take criticism. That's the other thing. How coachable are you? Because
mm,
if you're not coachable, I can tell you everything that's wrong, but if you're not gonna take the feedback and actually improve on it, well, that's wasting everyone's time, right? So
mm.
if you're coachable, if you're patient, but you also move with urgency, you're an action taker, man, you will get results. There's no way you will not. I'm telling you, you will. You will. If you do all those things, Don't even think about it. Pay it. You're gonna get results, and you will make way more money than what you're going to invest as well. And another thing that this program opened for me was the investment side of things. Since invested into the program, I've now invested in so many other things along the way. Before this, I thought everything was a scam. I was quite a bit scared as well of investing money. It was because of my background from a third world country and all these things. So that there were some money blocks that I needed to overcome within my own self. And I needed to have that one thing that I put money and it paid off and it worked out and got me incredible results to know that, okay, I need to invest more. I have invested thousands of dollars now at this point in myself and the business, and I continue to do so. It's not something that I'm going to stop anytime soon. And it's all because of this program, because it showed me that, yeah, okay, as long as you invest, it's going to be scary and all these things. Some of them will not work.
Mm,
This is not the case. For this program, that's not the case. It will work. It really is up to you if you do it.
awesome, dude. Thank you so much for jumping on. I know someone who's watching this, who's on the fence, who is on a similar journey, or is skeptical, and that's the whole purpose I wanted to do this. Is there's some really good guys out there, and you guys, there's Andrew, there's a Mr. G, yourself, and like other clients of ours, all in the same community. We've all seen similar results, and it's really cool to, from a coaching aspect. This is my goal, is to see guys like you go like this. That's one of our core values of our business, and that's something that we want to put across through our interviews like this. So I really appreciate you, dude. You just sharing honestly your feedback on the journey. Obviously, it's not as easy as some people say online, and it's something we promote. Like, there's going to be a journey that you're going to go on if you're thinking about working with us. Like, unless you don't, if you're not going to put in the work in, don't join our program. Don't book in a call. I don't want you guys. Like, if you're
Yeah.
going to put the work in and you're going to show up and you're going to do it, you might even meet Nelson at one of our in-person events one day. So, dude, appreciate you jumping on. And thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, man. Good vibes to everyone. And guys, just get after it. Anything is possible, really.